Good morning and welcome back. We are on day 288 of our 365 days of Bible study. At the moment we are looking at the Jesus story which is in St. Mark's Gospel and particularly the parts of it that are also shared by St. Matthew and St. Luke. Today we are looking at Mark chapter 7 verses 1 to 23, and this is a question of some significance about what is clean and what is unclean and what makes things like that. I'll turn you around so you can see the text and I'll start reading soon. Pharisees and some scribes from Jerusalem came to inspect Jesus. They noticed that several of his disciples ate with polluted hands. This means eating with hands unwashed. Pharisees, and in fact all Jews, do not eat unless they have washed their hands up to the wrist. This was the tradition of the elders. And when they come in from the market, they don't eat anything before having sprinkled it. And there are many similar traditions they keep, such as the washing of cups and pots and bronze vessels. The Pharisees and scribes asked Jesus, "Why don't your disciples live according to the tradition of the elders, but eat with polluted hands?" He replied to them, "Didn't Isaiah prophesy correctly about you hypocrites? Isaiah wrote, 'These people honour me with their voices whilst their hearts are far away. They worship me in vain, teaching human rules as doctrines.' You are departing from God's commandment and clinging to human tradition." And he said to them, "What a fine way you have of rejecting God's commandment so that you can observe your own custom. Moses said you should honour your parents, and that people who dishonour their parents ought to drop dead. But you say that if people tell their parents that what they would have given their parents is now korban, meaning a gift to God, then you don't allow them to do anything for their parents. When you do that, you are erasing the word of God by the customs you have had passed down to you. And this is not the only example among the things you do." Jesus called the people to him again and explained, "Listen carefully so that you can understand. Nothing coming in from outside a person can make that person unclean. It's things coming out from inside that defile people." When he went indoors, away from the people, the disciples asked him about the parable. And he said to them, "I'm surprised you don't understand this. Surely you understand that whatever goes into people can't defile them. It doesn't enter their minds, but their stomach, and then into the toilet." In saying this, he declared all foods to be free from defilement. And he said, "It's what comes out of people that makes them unclean. From within, from people's minds, evil thoughts emerge. Fornication, theft, murder, adultery, greed, wickedness, lies, obscenity, envy, slander, pride, foolishness, they all come out from within to defile people." One of the things that very early on in the ministry of St. Paul that distinguished Christians from Jews was the very swift way that Christian converts from paganism were not obliged to follow the Jewish dietary rules. Although Christians continued to read those Jewish scriptures that were available to them, they saw that a new freedom had been extended to them in the teachings of Jesus. Here, Mark has expanded a story about an argument with some Pharisees who had been sent by the Jerusalem authorities to inspect him. Jesus clearly differs with them on some details of how the law of Moses should be applied. Here, one particular tradition of theirs, which gives priority of importance to gifts dedicated to God over anything owed to people's parents, is criticized by Jesus because it prevents one of the 10 Commandments from being observed. This is obviously meant to be a general criticism of Pharisaical religion, which made the simple law of Moses much harder to observe by its multiplication of rules and traditions. Such traditions can easily put more and more people unwittingly in the wrong and multiply their guilt. Then Mark takes us onto the next stage by expanding Jesus' teachings about the source of uncleanness. Don't feel guilty about what you can or can't eat, he says. Look for where the source of our problems as humans really lies, in the human heart and mind. For Jesus and the disciples, now the focus is not on keeping the law of Moses in detail, if it ever was. It is in discovering the nature of our human predicament, and by the gift of God, welcoming God's own solution to it. Well, tomorrow, Jesus moves outside of Jewish territory, and Jesus is challenged to extend the grace of God to a Gentile woman and her mentally ill daughter. And I'll read you that tomorrow.